ass off.
Yeah.
Hello?
Hey.
What has happened here? We do not seem to have picture. Hold that thought, y'all. There.
Wait, it's trying. Oh,
there we are. There
okay.
we are. Okay.
All right.
Hi. Give us a second. We are exactly on time, 12:30. Which means technically no butt rub situation, but we will take a couple minutes. So if you show up later and watch us when it's not live, give us a few minutes to actually get into things. Hello, everybody who is already here. I am sweating my ass off. Sorry. This is not going to be our permanent setup. So we are having to
technical
adjust.
Difficulties.
Oh, the fan feels so good. Oh, okay, we're here. I want to say hi, and everything is further away, proving I need new glasses. So, hi, Amy. Hi, Shelby. Hi, Ben. Hi, Victoria. Hi, Silent Winged. Hi, Serenity. Hi, Ginger Kitty. Hi, Megan. Oh, thank you. This lipstick color is, I can't remember the name of it, but it is from e.l.f. and it cost, I think, $3 or $4. And I also put a lip liner under it until we sat in here with no fan on and my face started melting off. Okay, so y'all know we're going to do a bonus section. I realized something. I don't know if any of you ever have this happen where you've been going along your whole life doing a thing and then in the middle of nowhere you realize there's a thing you could have been doing better. Do you know we introduce ourselves every single week on the podcast, say our names. We never do that on the live stream.
Hi, I'm John Brownstone.
I'm Kayla Lords. In case you're new, if you're new, I hope we don't scare you off. And I know many of you are not new, and I am so happy you're here.
And together, we're loving BDSM.
Thank you. He's better at that than I am. But I realized that we'd never do that on the live stream. Never, ever, ever.
First time for everything.
Woke up in the middle of the night thinking about that, y'all. See where my priorities are. For everybody who is going to ask, absolutely, in the bonus section, we're going to talk about the house. We're going to talk about the office. I already love the picture we have here better than the old house, and it's not even right yet. So, haha. I think you need to hire Ben as a consultant is all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we say hi to everybody. Hi, Ashley and Ashley. Hi, Willow. Hi, Baby Love and Sir. Okay, so because we're late, there's no butt rub section. If you are new here, that's where we get here early and we bullshit for 3 or 4 minutes. That's not happening, so we are going to go ahead and get into it. We are not as prepared as we could have been because we just moved. And we realized at the last second that the setup we thought we were going to have for today's live stream
didn't work.
wasn't going to work.
No.
So we are a little scattered.
Hello, Eva.
Hi, Eva. So as you saw from the title, we are sharing our top communication tips for power exchange relationships. What else? What is YouTube only? The shirts. These do not have a link where you can purchase them. We're sorry. They were gifted to us by a friend, Christy Gets Fit on Instagram. Mm-hmm. She's amazing, and we love these. And also, these run big on me, and I needed something to be loose and flowy right now.
I think we both did today.
Yes. What else? If you like anything that we're doing here, feel free to give us a thumbs up. We like those. Subscribe if you have not. What do you say after I say subscribe?
Hit that notification bell so you get notified when we're uploading new content and doing stuff.
Sure. Whatever Daddy says. And if you really, really like what we do, you can always join us on Patreon. We're trying not to make that too much of a big deal these days because we understand the state of the world, but we are on Patreon, patreon.com/Kayla Lords. Links are in the description box. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Hi, Poppy's Trouble. Are we ready to actually start? I think we should. I feel very scattered, y'all. Hi, Queen Freya. Did I say that right?
Okay. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Okay. So I hope everybody will understand after a couple weeks off. I'm not going to just jump into a topic because when I've ever done that, we are going to do some announcements just to get everybody caught up to speed on things. A couple of things. Friday night on YouTube, 9:30 p.m. Eastern, we do a live hangout where it's not about a topic. We're just sitting around chatting. Last week, what did we talk about? TV shows that we remembered from like the past, our childhoods and teenage years.
Yes.
We went down memory lane. Some of us have a longer lane to go down because they and we are older. I'm going to get in trouble for that one later.
You are.
So that is still happening. If you are a patron, we have our live patron-only Q&A on Saturday, May 23rd. That has been posted in the appropriate places. And what was my other one? Oh. We have well surpassed 3,000 subscribers on YouTube, which was my random goal. If I could figure out number of subscribers on podcasts, I would do something like that too. But we surpassed it. So we are going to do a random live stream. I believe it's going to be either May 30th or May 31st, end of the month, for hours. We don't know about what. I just wanted to put it out there. Everybody's welcome to join. It'll be on a weekend, so hopefully people who normally can't watch a live stream in the middle of the week, like podcast listeners, you can come and join us and hang out with us. Once we know more, we'll tell you more. Okay, that was all I had for announcements. I do want to say, if you want to actually keep up with all of these things that I announce, as well as all of the other things that we usually have going on, if you subscribe to our newsletter, I send that out weekly, and I put all of that stuff in it, and you don't have to like try and remember any of it. Podcast listeners, the link is in the show notes. YouTube watchers, the link is in the description box. You can subscribe to our newsletter. Yay, they're done. Okay, so this week's topic. So I think I've talked about communication in all 217 previous episodes. We just talk about it all the time because it's one of the basic tenets of how to have any healthy, happy relationship, not just BDSM.
Pretty much.
If you're not talking to one another, it's not going to go well. No. But we always talk about it in terms of this topic we're talking about, that topic we're talking about. And I thought, what if we tried, not quite a rapid fire, no matter how fast I'm currently speaking, you can tell I'm hyped up. What if we tried to actually share some of our top tips, the things that come to mind first when we start thinking about communication, and we'll even try to go back and forth, like I'll share one and you share one, and then I'll share one and then you share one, and then eventually we'll both be sharing the same things because we share a brain sometimes too, and it's fine. We think alike.
Hi, I'm John Brownstone.
You stop
there,
that.
we communicated.
Stop! So that way, some of our top communication tips are like all in one place. And instead of listening to a little bit of this episode or watching a little bit of that video and listening to a little bit of this one or watching it or whatever, it's all in one. And it's not going to be everything because we're just two humans, imperfect and whatever. And so we might not think of things that you consider important. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you right now, if we miss something that you're like, no, but this is really important to me, comment, tweet at us, DM us, share so we can all learn and grow together, all that good stuff. So I did not make a list. That's the other reason we have to do it this way. So you might also hear typing. So there's something for the show notes. That's how scattered we are. We'll talk about
Speak for yourself.
Whatever. Almost forgot to put on a shirt is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, I had to rearrange the entire recording studio, do a 180 on it.
Literal.
Last minute, yeah.
I know. We'll talk about that in the bonus section. Okay.
All right.
So, did something come to mind?
I had two things that came to mind
Start
immediately.
with one and I'll type it out like I'm the secretary in the movie, The Secretary. Ooh, that's sexy. Okay, go ahead.
I'd have you bent over the desk then.
Yes! I'm going to need a sip of coffee to cool me down. Thanks.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is something that I talk about a lot to people, even in person, because communication is a big thing. Mm-hmm. And the one thing that stands out to me more than anything is the fact that communication is more than talking. It's more than just listening. It's how you listen. And one of the things that that I started doing a while back because it's kind of a consent of conversation.
Mm-hmm.
When somebody comes to me, especially you,
Yeah, hope so.
I need to talk.
Mm.
Okay. That can put a person's mind into many things.
Oh, especially an anxious person.
And,
oh, yeah.
And as the person who wants to talk, you may have certain expectations
Mm-hmm.
of the person listening.
Mm-hmm.
So I find that it's good right at the outset of that I need to talk to you for me to know what kind of listener I need to be.
Mm.
Are you looking for advice?
Mm-hmm.
Do you need a way to fix it? Do you need validation?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you just need somebody's ear to chew on without me saying anything?
Yes.
And that, I think, is to me, has become one of my groundworks for communication. Because knowing where I stand as a listener
Mm-hmm.
knows how I need to react to what you're saying.
Right, and that becomes my job as the one who has something that I need to talk about to say, hey, here's what I need from you. Now, sometimes you forget to do that. Sometimes you've got this thing so big in your head, you're like, I just have to talk about it. And that's where it's helpful if you forget to say, hey, I want to vent. I need your advice. Help me figure this out, whatever it is. If you're not hearing that from the person who's approaching you and saying, hey, let's talk about this thing in our relationship or this thing on my mind or whatever, as the listener, the best question you can ask is, okay, what do you need from me in this conversation? It feels awkward. To me, at least, it did. The first couple times you try that, because that's not how we're taught how to talk to one another. And when I say we're taught, I mean, obviously there are very few classes you go to. It's just we teach each other based on just going out there and starting to talk. And that's very uncommon in most situations. Your best friend walks up to you and they just start talking and they forget to tell you that actually what they want to do is vent, and you're trying to fix their problem, and now you're mad at one another.
Well, see, for me, that was the thing. When somebody came to me with something, I automatically went into fixing mode.
Same.
You know, how
Same.
can I fix this? And I automatically start, rolling out ideas. And that's not what's always needed or wanted.
Right. And it's almost like a next level communication thing. You've done the hard thing as a person who's admitting that you need to talk about something. Maybe it's something about your power exchange isn't working. Maybe there's this task, speaking from a submissive perspective, there's this task you were set and you're like, oh shit, I can't do this. I have to talk about it. Or it's work and you're still in work mode and you're not even in like DS mindset mode. You just need to bitch for a minute. Like,
right.
So it's more than just knowing what you need to say. It's knowing what you need from the person you're talking to. And as the partner being approached, if they're not telling you, then you have to learn, again, next level communication skill, how to ask for that information.
Yeah. And as if the talker, comes to you and says, well, I need to talk, but I just need you to listen. If the person doesn't say that, as the listener, you need to do that, because otherwise you have unclear expectations on both sides.
Yes, and one of our future topics is on managing expectations, so that's definitely one of those.
Yeah.
What that leads me to is the one that was definitely on my mind, one of my tips. And it's not a tip, it's, I think, a fact. This is a fact. There's no way to take this and go use it. It's a thing to remember. And that is, communication is a skill. Good communication is a skill. Very rarely does anybody tell us how to best communicate. Maybe you read a few self-help books. Maybe you, like me, you've learned the hard way and you've gotten into arguments with people you don't want to argue with. And you're like, why am I in this place where we're not hearing one another?
Yeah.
Quite frankly, some of us have, and most of us probably have childhoods where the people in our lives quote, taught us to communicate in really unhealthy ways. You know, kids are seen and not heard, or why are you crying about that? Or, I mean, believe me, could go through a list of things that taught me at a very formative age not to say what's on my mind, not to be comfortable sharing my feelings or my thoughts with the people closest to me. So learning how to communicate is absolutely a skill, and especially in any relationship, but specifically for us, Power Exchange, it's about trust as well. You kind of have to trust that the person you're about to confide in is going to hear you, is going to care enough, even if they don't understand, to take the time to listen, that they're not going to judge you for whatever it is you're about to say. And learning how to listen without judgment, I am still working on that. That is just as much a communication skill as learning to speak, one, without judgment, or to speak at all. I'm sure there are people who hear the pace at which I speak and the amount of words that come out of my mouth and think I'm a really great, think I'm a really great natural communicator. I'm a great talker. Talking is not automatically communicating, okay? Just because I know how to say some words doesn't mean I know how to communicate what's in my head and what's in my heart and the things that matter to me, and that I have always known how to say the really hard things that move a relationship forward, whether that's forward together or not forward together at all, forward separately. And developing that skill for me came with time and trust that John Brownstone would, even when he didn't understand what I was trying to say, he would give me a very safe space to just say what was on my mind. Even when we disagree, it never devolves into name calling or telling each other that what we just said was wrong or invalid, or, you know, that we're stupid. Like, we don't do that. We've both been in relationships where that's what happened. You said a thing on your mind, probably imperfectly, because we all usually do, and the other person attacked you for it or dismissed it or made you feel less than, which shuts down communication. So remembering that you're not going to be good at it at first, especially if you're trying to unlearn some negative communication skills that you internalized over time, that for me was a point of self-forgiveness. I could go, you know what, I'm not good at this because this is not a muscle that I have.
Right,
and I was just going to say, know how to do this.
It's like exercising a muscle that hasn't been used. You know, it's very stiff, it's very tight, it doesn't want to work.
Sometimes very
very
small.
well. Yeah, sometimes very small. But, you know, the more you work at it, the more you stretch that muscle and put it into use, the easier it becomes.
Right. And part of that is saying, I don't know how to say this. Maybe I don't have the right words to share what's on my mind, but here it is.
Yeah.
And I think that, especially as you're getting better at this, setting the expectations, like you talked about in your first thing, of what you need from the other person will help you, because there's nothing worse than wanting to vent about something and your fixer partner, which we happen to both be fixers, that makes for fun times, wants to fix it for you. They're trying to help in their mind. From a fixer, we're doing it out of love and kindness and care, and we want to make your life better. But what you really wanted was just to fucking vent for 30 seconds. You'll figure it out, or you'll ask for help later. Just let me vent. That is a skill, to learn how to set those expectations for one another so that you are on the same page. That's just one of many skills to practice, and it does take practice. Nobody's automatically good at it, I think. I have another one, but do you have one you want to go first?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
This is again kind of being on the listening side of communication, and you know, people say, well, you know, communication is talking, and it is, but communication is a two-way street. Somebody talking, somebody listening, and this is something that I still have to work on. It's been rather difficult for me, but I do find that, again, I'm exercising that muscle and I'm finding it easier. And that is truly being active in the conversation as a listener. And what makes this particular thing difficult for me is because of the fact that I am a fixer. So a lot of times in the past, I would find myself in a conversation, and instead of truly paying attention to what is being said, I'm thinking about what I'm going to be saying in return.
Same.
So therefore, my mind is not on what is being said. And that is something that's very hard to turn off.
Oh, yeah. It's very important to.
Yeah.
It makes conversations so much better.
True.
It gives the person speaking the confidence that they're actually being
heard. Yes.
I used to, and I still sometimes do it myself, and it was because I was terrified I was going to forget what I wanted to say. And I think the expression, the way I've heard it explained is, you don't listen to hear, you listen to respond.
Yes.
And
yes.
part of that, I think, comes from sometimes some of us, I know I'm like this, we are very uncomfortable with silence. You say a thing, and maybe it takes a minute for me to think of how best to respond.
Right.
And that little silence can really like tense people, like kind of get twitchy, or like, why are you being quiet? Why am I being quiet? Maybe I should let me jump right in and say something. When actually it's just the time it might take to process what you've just heard and actually think about what's been said, because you were present in the moment in the conversation.
Right.
I still struggle with that.
Yeah.
I totally struggle with that.
It's a hard thing. It's a difficult thing because, you're taking in, and, we are people, we are humans, we hear certain things, and it spins our brains up to thinking, oh, well, this and this, and, well, maybe this, and I need to say that. And, it's difficult to quiet that, that noise sometimes, to just listen.
Yes. And when you start working on that, and that's kind of an internal thing you have to kind of work on for yourself. I mean, I absolutely have moments where I can feel myself thinking about what I want to say, and in my head, without interrupting the conversation, whatever the person's telling me, I stop and say in my head, internally, I'll stop that. Just listen. Just be here in the moment. Yeah. You can think of what you want to say when they're done talking. Especially, this is where assumptions get made all the time. You'll start telling, and I still do it, and I know I still do it. You'll start telling me something, and based on the first half of the sentence, I think I know what the other half of the sentence is, and I start responding before you finished your thought, and I was wrong. So even when that happens when you do it in your head as well, you're like, I'm going to be the polite listener and let them speak. But the whole time you're thinking of what advice you're going to give or whatever you're going to tell them. You might be surprised that once you let them say everything and then think of your response, it's a different response. You're reacting to the fullness of what they've said, not the first two sentences at the start of the conversation. The other one that comes to mind, and this one I never thought this would be a controversial thing, but I have seen people vehemently disagree with it. So just disagree and be mad at me if you don't like it. Verbally communicating, if you're capable of verbal communication, verbally communicating is a great skill. But that's not the only way to communicate.
No, communication comes in many forms.
Oh my gosh, writing it down, record. I was even thinking about this last night. I was like, what if some people physically can't, or just are not comfortable type, like I am typing a big old long email at midnight to the daddy dom of my dreams when we lived 400 miles away, but I had thoughts, right? And verbalizing them was very difficult. It was almost like there was a blockage, like in my throat. Like the words would be here, they'd be in my heart, they'd be in my head, but they couldn't like come out of my mouth. But I could type them. Well, not everybody types. Not everybody feels comfortable with that. Not everybody picks up a pen and a pencil. I've done that too. So I was thinking about it last night. Voice record yourself. Sometimes it's easier to say a thing when you can't see the other person, or you can't hear their voice, or you're not anticipating a response the moment you speak. You can speak a little bit more freely. So I've always said write it out. And then I thought, but what if some people can't or aren't comfortable with the writing? Okay, voice record yourself. Whatever method you use to communicate, if what you're doing is sharing how you feel, your thoughts, your experiences, your concerns, asking the questions that you want to ask, as long as you're sharing the information with your partner in a way that they can receive them, the method you use for communication is valid. Sometimes it's why I need to just not be on Twitter as often as I sometimes am. I literally saw somebody on Twitter go, well, if you have to write it down, then you're not actually communicating very well. You need to get better at learning how to say it. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? Half of the soul bearing that we went through, where I told you some of my deepest fears and my biggest concerns and some of the shit that had happened to me and some of my best positive feelings, what might not have been shared for literal months or years if I hadn't written it down first. Because in finding the other way to communicate and using whatever method is best for you to get the thoughts out and share them with the person you want to share them with, that moment, that ability to share is what taught me that he could be trusted with those thoughts and feelings. And so then over time, I got more comfortable saying them on the phone where I couldn't look at you, and then finally saying them when we're face to face and, whatever. That was part of the process of learning that this person is safe with the things I think and feel, and that they can handle my, worst emotions and my wildest things and the random thoughts in my head. I mean, that, especially if you have ever been taught or told by anybody in your life, certainly a former partner, that they didn't want to hear it, that it wasn't important, that it wasn't valid, that you were just, complaining, or you were too much or too needy or too blah, blah, all that shit we get told that we then internalize, that makes it almost impossible to speak later. And I'll take it on a different direction. We've already talked about I'm a talker. We all know I'm a talker. 218 podcast episodes don't lie, right? But communicating negative emotions has always been hard for me. That's a childhood thing. That's a therapy thing. Learning that the person I loved was safe to communicate anger to, and that I'm upset and that they've hurt me. That, first of all, that was a huge growth opportunity in my soul and in my life and as a human, okay? It's also a really weak muscle I still struggle with. Writing those things down first, that was safe. First, I had to learn he was safe with my thoughts and feelings. Then I learned, wait, if all these other non-angry thoughts and feelings are safe, maybe the angry ones are too. Maybe telling him I'm angry at him is safe. And the first time I had to tell you I was pissed off at you, I had to write that shit down. It was not coming out of this mouth.
Yeah.
I had 20 years of childhood, early adulthood behind me teaching me that was not okay and that was not allowed. And 10 minutes with this man was not going to change that.
And there's still been a few mornings that, I've woken up and found a handwritten letter on my keyboard.
Look, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is all I'm saying.
Right.
But sometimes it's a safety thing. Yeah. So that was really long-winded for me to tell you that if you're not ready yet to say those words out loud, but you can write them, or you can text them, or you can email them, or you can voice record, whatever, that's okay. Use the tools that you have where you're most comfortable, because it's not about how you express it. It's that you express it, and that you learn if this partner you're with is somebody you can trust with this part of yourself. And if they don't react well and they're not willing to learn the communication skills to handle that stuff, then you've learned something there too. It's not a great thing to learn, but in the long run, I'd rather know that person is not somebody I need to be with and we can go our separate ways than to never learn to communicate and always be miserable, but not quite understand why I'm miserable, because I'm repressing so much and I'm not sharing the things I need to share, especially to have a healthy power exchange. Holy shit. Okay, I got long-winded. Go ahead. Right. Go ahead.
My turn.
Go ahead.
Yes. And I have to thank Jennifer for mentioning this, and this is something that we've had to work into our relationship. And again, as a listener, being with a talker, I've had to learn how to readjust my listening in the relationship. But at any given time, someone may not be in the mood or in the right headspace to listen.
Yes.
And we found that out early on. Surprisingly, I mean, we're both very busy people. We have our hands in a lot of different pots, doing a lot of different things. And there was a little bit of frustration early on because I'd come up and start talking to you and you'd be busy there working away at your keyboard, or I'd be in the middle of some work and doing something. You'd come up and start talking. Oh, I didn't hear you. Mm-hmm. So we've kind of worked out a little bit of a color system, surprise.
Yeah.
If one of us needs to talk, we will walk up to the other and we'll say, is your green light on? Mm-hmm. Meaning, do you have the ability at this point in time to give attention to me because I have something to talk about? Mm-hmm. And that has worked out really well. The answer is either, yes, yes, my green light is on, or, I just need a few more minutes to wrap this up, and then my green light will come on.
Or you don't get a response at all, and you go, oh, it's clearly a red light. I'll be back. Or you're like me and you forget, and you start talking anyway, and somebody goes, I didn't say my green light was on.
Right. But that has been a big help, okay? Because, the green light isn't always on. Mm-hmm. And especially if it's something that's going to be an in-depth conversation, well, my green light isn't on at this moment, but, later on,
right,
we can sit down and we can talk. We can have the conversation.
It's not opposite to that, but there's a parallel issue to that with telling your partner you need to talk. Knowing your partner and your partner expressing who they are to you is important, because when John Brownstone tries to say, we need to talk, but I don't have time right now, can we talk later? You better believe this anxious girl right here is like, what's wrong? What's wrong? Am I going to the principal's office? Did I get in trouble? Is something falling down? And he's like, actually, we just need to talk about the faucet in the kitchen. But so I had to teach him. You had to learn.
I did.
That, and this might not be true of everybody with anxiety or any other mental health thing, but this girl with this anxiety is so, no, I don't deal well with, I need to talk to you later. So, and sometimes you still sometimes get cranky with me, because what you want to be able to do is go, I need to talk to you in a few minutes. And he'll even go, it's nothing. And I'm like, it's never nothing. It's never nothing. And I have to get him to stop and go, you don't have to tell me the details. Give me a highlight. Tell me the topic. Are we talking about the state of our relationship? Is this when everything ends? Which then usually prompts either this laugh or a really confused look, or did we lose something? Is there a problem? Is the house falling down? What is happening? So I have had to teach him to give me a highlight so that I know not, because if I go into that conversation really anxious, I'm not in a space to listen. If I work myself up to what it could be, to the worst possible scenario, I'm not listening. Or, and this is what happens to us most often when some nice man forgets, I'm demanding at that point. Now I'm anxious and I'm irritable and I'm scared, and I want to know, we're talking about it now, because now I can't function. That's not healthy. That certainly doesn't make me feel very submissive. I'll tell you that right now. I mean, maybe the stomping my foot and demanding, the baby girl might be out, but so that is a thing that we've talked about a lot is, okay, because knowing yourself as a communicator, knowing if you have triggers, if there are things you kind of need to be prepared for. Like if you want to have a deep, soulful conversation with me, I need to be prepared for that. I need to know that I have the mental energy for that, I can give the time and attention to that. That does mean, though, that sometimes big conversations do get put off. Over the weekend, I had a really bad depressive low. I'm pretty sure it was all the buildup from everything going on in life. And then we had like 5 minutes of calm. And my brain went, oh, okay, we're going to rest now. And just went too low, just nosedived. And I was not good for anything. You could not have had a deep, meaningful conversation.
No.
You could not have disciplined me within our power exchange.
No.
You could not have enforced a rule at that point. Like, nothing would have done well in that situation. So from the side of the person with an issue who knows you kind of need this, or figures out over time you need these things to help you, you have to communicate that with your partner. You know, if you know that being told we need to talk and getting nothing else will set you off and you're going to spiral, you've got to figure out a way to share that with your partner. As the partner who, I mean, maybe you're fortunate like John Brownstone to have been told by an actual licensed medical counselor therapist person that you are completely mentally healthy. What is that like? He has no concept of some of those craziness in my brain. And so he has to be willing to listen and accept that he doesn't understand what I'm going through, but he trusts me and accepts that this is what I'm going through, and then, you know, adjusts to that, because ultimately we want the same outcome. You know, we did a whole episode on goals. We want the same outcome. Our approach to getting there might be different, but because we're on the same team, because we're trying to get to the same place together, we're going to accommodate for each other, you know, just like the green light system was not set up for me, by the way, meaning my green light can be on in a second, okay? It was for the man who gets really focused on stuff, and you could tell him state secrets. He will.
And I would not hear a word.
Nope.
If I am doing something that I am so in, and I get into things like that, I become so hyper-focused on what I am doing, nothing around me exists.
It's amazing. I'm just like, I'm sorry. I can hear the faucet dripping, the birds outside, a kid's asking about lunch. I'm answering an email, and then there's probably somebody in my DMs, and it's all there. And yeah, the green light system was for him. So I think that is not a communication. This is not the thing I'm thinking right now. Is not a communication thing. I think it is a life thing, especially a relationship thing. Is the understanding that, because I think we all know we're not meant to all be exactly alike, but it's the willingness to, in a safe way, in a way that holds with your morals, ethics, and values, that we can accommodate our partner's needs, even when we don't understand them. Right? Like, even when we're over here thinking, that's the dumbest thing ever, I don't need that. It's fine. I don't need the green light system. John Brownstone does. He doesn't need a 5-page report on what the conversation's gonna be about before the conversation, but I do. And so we are willing to do those things to further the relationship, but also to keep communication running smoothly. Every one of us knows how bad it is in a relationship when communication is non-existent or breaks down. Like, everybody's miserable. Everybody's assuming the worst of the other. Nothing good is happening because whatever skills you might have had or whatever methods you might have had have all broken down and you're not using them, or they didn't exist in the first place. We don't want that. And we have been in relationships where it just didn't happen. And so we're not perfect at it.
No.
We still get into arguments about shit.
We fuss, yeah.
Especially when communication does break down.
Oh, yeah. It happens.
Communication absolutely breaks down.
Because nothing is perfect.
Right.
You know, nothing is absolutely perfect. But one of the things I have to say about you that is very enlightening to me is that when we talk, you always remind me that my feelings are valid. And that's something that means a lot to me.
And I know that because you shared with me, you communicated what went on in previous relationships and where things broke down and the things. That would be my next tip, that it is not just for submissives to share all of our squishy feelings, or that submissives should expect just dominants to care about and protect and, you know, hold sacred our squishy feelings. The dominants have squishy feelings too, whether some of them want to admit it or not. And for a variety of reasons, might not think that they should share them, might not feel comfortable sharing them, whether that's past relationships or the way they see power exchange, which I understand it being hard to share your emotions and feelings and to communicate that stuff as the one in control and charge. Like, I get that, but also I'm gonna side eye you. Like, I'm gonna need you to like bend a little bit, because your submissive one cannot give you what you need beyond the exact order of what you're telling them you want. They can't feed you your soul and your mind and your spirit and your all the woo-woo stuff in any other way if you don't like give them a little bit, talk a little bit. But I know the validations you need because you've told me where things went wrong in the past. You shared that with me. Then that was my job as a listener to pay attention to that and to remember that. And I've got a for shit memory on some stuff, and I feel like ass because I just forget some really basic things. But I think part of that was I understood the level of vulnerability you allowed yourself to feel in order to express that, in order to share that. And that would be then another thing is communication isn't just like this 10-step checklist of did I listen? Did I set a time? It's about, with the right person, it's about letting yourself be vulnerable and say the thing you might not say. Not everybody in the world deserves your vulnerability and your soft, squishy inner core. No. But depending on the type of power exchange relationship you are building, whether that's a long-term, loving, gonna live together for a million years thing, or just a really strong bond where you're building trust, vulnerability has to be part of that, and you have to learn how to communicate that. And that is really hard. Every breakdown of communication I've ever experienced, we together have ever experienced, was a moment where we didn't want to be vulnerable, where we thought, because of bad tapes, because of whatever, we thought the other person didn't want to hear it, or that they couldn't handle it, or they wouldn't understand it. And sometimes that's true. Sometimes you have a thing that the other person can't understand and they don't know how to handle it. But if you're working to develop trust between you, or you have developed trust between you, you have to kind of give them that chance. If it's something important to the power exchange, how will you ever know if you don't let yourself be vulnerable, at least for a moment? And then I go back to the other tips of, if looking them in the eye and saying it, you get choked up, find an alternative method where you can say it, quote, air quotes, say it, without looking at them. They can read it later. They can listen to it later. They'll see it later. You got it out of your head. You presented it to them. And sometimes that actually, I think, really worked for us too, because it gave you time to process.
Yes.
And that's another thing, especially when we're talking about the big, hard, scary things in a relationship. You have just word vomited all of your vulnerability onto your partner, and I am very proud of you. The next part to me has always been the hardest, but it has always been the most important. You then have to step back and give your partner time to process.
Yeah.
You know?
Because not every conversation, not every topic can be resolved in that one moment. I myself, I am the type of person, I have found my worst decisions are decisions I've made off the cuff in an instant. If I have time to think things over, see if I have any questions, different things like that. When I have time to think about something, my decision is always that much more solid based.
Yep.
So, sometimes, yes, there are times we talk. Kayla will present her case.
I want this thing, and here's why. 300 reasons, and a couple of appendices.
Right.
Right.
And I will tell her, okay, I need time to think about this. Let me mull it over. If I have any questions, I will ask you, and then we will move forward from there.
And that's been good from a submissive perspective. I just came in, I wanted a big rule change, or I wanted, or just from a relationship standpoint, I would like to spend this large amount of money. Don't worry, I've researched all the reasons why you should say yes. In full honesty and disclosure, I will also present here are the reasons you might say no, but also here are the 10 million reasons why. Just tell me yes. Yeah. And I know that I find that hard. I've just said this big thing. I need a response from you. And sometimes it's not even a decision. It's just this is a thing you need to know about me. And then you have to sit and wait and let the other person process. I want to get into kinky fuckery communication. Because all of the things we've talked about absolutely transfer into your kinky fuckery. If you are trying to negotiate a scene or change some part of your power exchange or go from bedroom only to 24/7, like all of that stuff is all stuff that's going to help you. But there is communication specific to the fuckery. I know. And the first one that came to my mind is safe words, because safe words are all about communication. Yep. I have lots of thoughts about safe words. We've done a couple of things on safe words. I think we have a couple of videos. I know we have a podcast episode. You go to anything that we do and search safe word and you'll find it. But a couple of highlights. So one, a safe word doesn't have to be a word. It can be a gesture for different reasons. But two, I would say never, ever, 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 ever solely rely on a safe word. Communication within the scene can be both utilitarian and sexy as fuck.
Yeah.
And I know, or I lurk and see too many conversations from usually newer doms or tops who are like, but I don't want to break the mood by asking, are you doing okay over there?
Give me a color, girl.
Oh, shit. The greeniest of green. Oh, that's the most action I've seen in a while. I'm gonna need a minute. Yeah, you can be sexy with it. And you're being safe. And you're letting your partner know that they're safe. Now, here's the other side of that communication to my submissive bottom friends out there. You gotta say it. You gotta be truthful. There have been times I really didn't want the scene to end, but I needed that thing to end.
Yeah.
I gotta say that. I gotta find a way. Now, our methods are different, and my methods change depending on the scene and the mood.
True.
So if we're kind of like practicing a kinky thing, and we're like, oh, this is still new to us, and it's not really about the sexiness and the power exchange. It's like, I'm gonna pour hot wax on you. You better tell me what the hell's going on down there. That's gonna be a very different form of communication. It's a lot of back and forth. It doesn't feel sexy at all, no matter how turned on I might be by the thing we're doing. When we're in the middle of the scene, I might be playful because the scene is playful. I might be really soft and submissive, which I know some of you are like, psh, you? Yes, it happens. I'm going to respond based on where my head is at, but I have had to learn another skill. It's my responsibility as the sub or the bottom to speak the fuck up. When I get a direct question, or when something's just not right. We've done bondage scenes where I was kind of like getting into that sort of headspace of, ooh, I'm feeling really bottomy here. This is kind of nice. And then something pinched. I had to say something. It was for my own safety. So submissives, you are not ruining the scene or ruining the moment because you say something. You know, that's not a good kind of pain, or my hand has gone numb, or, you know, the wax is too fucking hot. This isn't even enjoyable anymore. Right. There are ways, but
you know, the other side of it, I have heard some submissives say that, well, I don't want to use my safe word. I'm not going to use my safe word because it's going to disappoint my dom.
Oh, that one always breaks my heart on that one.
Yes. And I always told her in the beginning, do not ever do anything like that to me. I will be more disappointed in you that you did not use your safe word when you felt you needed to.
And the thing about safe words is what they mean to you in your relationship and your fuckery, that can and should and please do be discussed outside of the scene.
Mm-hmm.
So first it's, are we going to have a safe word?
Right.
If there's no safe word assigned, no means no until decided mutually otherwise. If we are going to do a safe word, what's it going to be? And what does that mean? So for some people, a safe word, the whole damn scene ends. You call red or whatever your word is, and everything, and really for us, everything does stop.
Yeah.
But for some people, that means we come to a dead stop, scene's over, we're packing up, we're going to do some aftercare, we're going to jet, like we're done. For us, it means I'm going to stop right this second, I'm going to check in. He's going to check in, not me. I'm over there going, ready, red. And I'm then going to say, I can't handle anymore. Or I'm going to say, I don't want to stop, but you have got to stop doing that thing right there. I cannot handle it. And that's, we're going to pause mid-scene. I've absolutely called red in a scene.
Yes.
It's almost like that timeout on the field of some sporting event. I'm not good with sports, y'all. And they huddle for a second, they confer, and then they go back out. It's a little bit like that. And then he adjusts based on the feedback I've given him. The other fuckery communication rule that we have is if I cannot respond verbally to a question,
done.
We're done. Because now I can't keep myself safe.
Right. Man, and I've had to do that a couple times with you. You were so deep in subspace, and I saw certain aspects of your body language that were not in line how you are. And I asked you a color. You could not give me a color.
Just floating.
You were just floating. And you were like, just keep going. But your body language was so far off. No, we're gonna stop now, and we're done for the night.
And I even remember one night I couldn't do anything. I just like hung there. I think you had me up. My wrists were tied to a thing, butt ass naked, y'all. It's got a 360 view of me, and I'm literally slumped, like not even holding myself up anymore. My head's kind of walled back, and I couldn't. You were like, give me color, and I'm like, in my head, I have vague memories of being like, this is the best moment ever. But the brain and the mouth couldn't cooperate.
Right.
And so a lack of ability to communicate is a signal that something needs to stop.
Right.
And I would say that outside of fuckery, if you are the person in the conversation, in the power exchange, and you find that you literally cannot speak, like something is stopping you, whether it's your own brain, or it's your anxiety, or it's past memories, or it's bad tapes, or it's really good kinky fuckery that just, floated you out, that is important to recognize that you can't keep yourself safe, and that is the responsibility of a submissive or a bottom just as much as it's the responsibility of a dominant or top. If you can't keep yourself safe, you gotta stop for a moment. You gotta back up. I do, because I like how it makes me feel. It makes me feel small and submissive. I do like that whole thing of it's the dominant's job to keep me safe, but I'm also a grown-ass woman, and it's my job to keep me safe, and I have to bear some responsibility for my person. And so learning how to communicate within the fuckery and outside the fuckery is equally important. And if you happen to be fucking around with a dom or top who says that you shouldn't be telling them this, or that you don't need to tell them that stuff, they just know, or they'll decide, don't just walk, run the fuck away, okay? Because that is the least safe thing I've ever heard of, especially when you're new. I know that long-term couples or people in long-term relationships develop their own way and style and pattern based on their time together, based on the way they've played together, based on the trust they have in one another.
Yeah.
I might disagree with some of that still, but I respect that a lot more because there's a lot of time put into that.
Right.
But new, barely know, only know online, don't even know their first name.
I will say, in the time that we have been together, certain things as far as aspects of impact play where it comes to spankings and flogging, okay, we are less likely at this point to use a safe word because of how we.
But you're not going to tell me that I'm not allowed to tell you that there's something wrong, or that you will decide when play is over.
Absolutely
like, that's
not.
Never gonna happen.
No.
Even if we decided to set that scene up, there would be safeguards in place.
Sure.
So we just don't play to that extreme.
Yeah.
This girl's anxiety cannot handle it.
If we're doing something new, like when we first tried wax play, when we first started, dipping our toes in electric play and things like that, I checked in a little more.
And I was much more verbal because I needed you to understand what I was experiencing.
Right.
So that later you would have the information you needed to make those decisions, to have more control of a future scene.
Yes.
We have done an entire episode / I think a video on this one. And that is submissives, bottoms out there, communicating your needs to your partner and saying, I don't really like this, or this is not working for me, or can we do something different, or whatever it might be. That is not topping from the bottom.
No.
And I would like to throw all the people that say that a submissive who communicates their needs is topping from the bottom, I'd like to throw those people into the sun. That's my new favorite expression. It's an old expression, but I'm using it for the first few times now, and I like it. No. Communicating your needs is taking responsibility for your half of the situation, whether it's a scene or it's a relationship. That is not topping from the bottom.
There's two aspects to that. You're taking responsibility for your safety, and in despite what some may think, you need to get enjoyment out of it too. So you're looking out for your safety, and you're making sure that you enjoy it as much as anything as well.
Right. I recognize loving to play with the dominant is in total absolute control. Everything they do, everything they have me do is to please themselves. Like there's for some of us, and I enjoy that kind of fantasy too. That always reads to me, if it's not in a specific negotiated scene, like negotiated down to the letter, that's another part of communication. Negotiation is just a fancy word for a conversation, but I understand those one-off scenes that can occur where you play like that. We've played like that before. Yeah. But when I hear people say it over and over and over again as if they think that's what BDSM is, that's what a kinky scene is, that tells me that they are looking at kinky fuckery through an airbrushed erotica or porn filter, and they're not thinking about it, or don't even understand it in a realistic way. Because realistically, we could negotiate down to the last detail a scene where whatever John Brownstone decides to do in that scene is purely for his pleasure. That I receive pleasure is secondary. And I could be okay with it. There's something kind of hot about that to me. Partly because there's the trust that he's going to do shit I like. So I'm going to get something out of it anyway. Right. But we could do all of that. And in the middle, I could have a panic attack. My leg could cramp.
Right. And that has happened.
Something could happen that brings you back to reality. And if the dominant or top does not respect that side of the communication and the reality of what it means to actually scene with actual human beings, and says I'm topping from the bottom, or says that they don't have to listen because what we negotiated before this thing started is the only thing that matters. I mean, that's not just a problem with communication. It's a much deeper, more dangerous problem. If we have not already done an episode on stuff like that, we could. But that is about the communication a submissive needs to do on their own behalf to the best of their abilities. And I say to the best of their abilities because none of us are perfect communicators. And I don't think you have to wait until you're really great at communicating to go get kinky with somebody. But I do think that the other parts, the other aspects need to be there in the absence of strong communication. Respect from the other person, just respect for your humanity, let alone who you are as an individual. A certain amount of trust that you genuinely believe, and they have indicated that they have, want this to be a good experience for you and will do their best to look out for you. Demonstrate that they've demonstrated in other ways that they're responsible kinksters and aren't trying to hurt you beyond a consensually negotiated kind of thing. And so that goes far beyond good communication skills. But I would say that you can learn or get an idea if that person is going to be that kind of person in the way that they communicate. How many messages do we get from people who are like, I have not heard from this dom in 6 weeks. Do you think they've ghosted me? Or they didn't talk to me for a month. Now they've shown back up.
Yes.
With all of their excuses. Should I take them back? I mean, short of soap opera level drama in their life where they might have been in a coma in the hospital, which given current circumstances is maybe possible at this point. What about the 6 weeks of silence indicates that they care about you or your feelings, are going to communicate anything with you? Mm-hmm. Because if you can't tell me, oh my God, my life fucking blew up and I might not have time to talk for a week, you can't give me that courtesy, how am I going to trust you to tie me up, to beat my ass, to, quote, air quote, force me to do kinky fuckery things in a scene? But you don't have the ability to not ghost me for 6 weeks? These basic things can be an indicator of how it's going to be for you when you get into the deep kinky things and when you take it further. So, yeah. Good communication is a skill. None of us are born just knowing all these things. Mm-hmm. We're going to fuck up a lot before we get good at it. I think bottom line, you were a better communicator than any partner I've ever had prior to you. I mean, bar none. Best communicator. And you have still come a long way. Yeah. I know I've come a long way because I'm a great talker, not always a good communicator. Of feelings, at least. But the willingness to try, the willingness to get better, the willingness to admit that you had not done that well and you could do that better. Mm-hmm. That goes a long way too. That goes a long way. So you don't have to come out of the box being perfect at this. No. You just have to be willing to learn and to try.
It takes practice. It takes work. I mean, even with her, when we first got together, she didn't want to talk to me about certain things. And we met on her blog. She put a lot of things out on her blog. Okay, but there were certain things that she held back. Not everything was out there. And certain things you didn't feel comfortable talking to me.
Right, and part of it is boundaries, and you get to have boundaries.
Absolutely. But as things started growing closer between us, there was still a little trepidation. And one of the things I did was that if there was something she felt she needed to talk to me about that she could not do it openly, I set up a little journal for her on Google Drive. Mm-hmm. And you could go in there and write your thoughts. Mm-hmm. Now, there's one other quick thing I want to mention as far as communication. This was something that we were at a workshop for, was mentioned at this workshop. And I love this when I heard it and they explained it. Parallel communication. Do you remember that?
Vaguely.
Okay. A lot of people have trouble unable sitting face to face, looking at somebody and communicating thoughts. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That whole eye contact thing.
It's the whole eye contact thing. It makes some people uneasy. So what their thing was pretend you're driving you're in a car. Both people in a car.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
You know who I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. And it was a really great thing. You're sitting in a car, one person driving, the other is a passenger, and you can talk, but you don't have that face-to-face. You're parallel communication, and some people find it easier
Oh, yeah.
To talk that way, to talk more openly and be more vulnerable.
You and I have had deep, vulnerable conversations in the car.
Yeah.
I mean, some people, they need to talk. They'll go for a drive with their partner.
Yeah.
Some people do it over the phone. There are all kinds of ways, and I think it's about finding what works for you while also being honest with yourself about where any communication issues you might have come from. Is it bad tapes from bad partners? Is it childhood trauma? Is it you never really had anybody who wanted to listen to you anyway? Or have you maybe spent most of your life being listened to and haven't developed those skills of doing the listening? That's a problem. And I think probably there's so many things to say. We could do like a 3-hour episode of this. We're not doing a 3-hour episode on this. One of the things I would say is that neither side of the slash, no partner that you have, is meant to be the sort of the receptacle for every single thought and feeling that you ever have at any given time. I don't mean that if you're comfortable, you shouldn't share every thought. Believe me, John Brownstone wishes I would have less comfort. I share eventually every thought. But I think most of us have come across those people in life where you sit down to talk and they start and they never stop. And they don't stop to say, how are you? Tell me about you. What's going on with you? And they never stop to listen. There's different levels of over communication. I know I'm an over communicator. I also know I talk a lot. I have had to learn to stop and say, how are you doing? I want to hear about you. Tell me about you. I actually am more comfortable starting that way anyway, of letting people talk to me. I happen to be, you're like this too. We kind of, I guess, have that face. Random people will tell us random things that we did not ask for. And I don't mean y'all out there that DM us. I mean, we could be in the grocery store and next thing we know about this person's hemorrhoids.
Entire life. Yeah.
What the fuck happened? But there was a point in my life where I never felt listened to. So the moment I was given the opportunity to speak, I couldn't shut up. It was too much. It was too much too soon. It was to the point of discomfort for other people listening. And when I self-corrected, that was when I learned to ask, hey, how are you doing? And I tend to sit back and let other people tell me how they're doing. Because one, people kind of like to talk about themselves. And not everybody's comfortable with it, but if you get somebody who's in a comfortable conversation and you want to get them to relax, getting them to talk about their day or their work or a thing they care about relaxes them usually a lot quicker than trying to do other things. But that also then taught me that there are people, and this is how I knew I was like this, who will have entire conversations and never take a breath and never ask you how you're doing. So while it's important to be a good listener, and that is part of that's the other half of communication, be careful of the situations, whether you're the listener or the talker. If the other person's never heard, if nobody's asking, what do you think? How do you feel about this? Tell me what's going on with you. That is not enough communication tends to be the main problem, but one-sided communication can be another thing, and it can be an indicator of all kinds of things. I think we could probably do an entire episode on that too. I'm getting a lot of ideas today.
Well, it's a big topic.
It's a massive topic.
It's a big topic.
And these are just the things, when we call these our top communication tips, these tend to be the things that we remind ourselves of most of all.
Yes.
When we fall into a communication problem or we're having an argument, these are the things that we rely on. But also, they're top of mind because when I'm having conversations with other Kinksters, they've emailed or DM'd or we're chatting, the answer is almost always, but how are you communicating with your partner? Right. How's that going? And a lot of these things we said are things that we repeat over and over again. So there's a lot more to say. Like, we could do an entire episode on active listening. If we haven't already, I'd have to go back in the archives. I feel like we've had that conversation. I feel like we did it
sometime, yeah.
But it's a lot to take in. If anybody out there is like, I know I'm a shitty communicator. What do I do? Where do I start? Start by acknowledging that. Start by sitting down with your partner and saying, I'm not good at this. Help me.
Knowing is half the battle.
Right. Like, have an honest conversation with each other. You might have to hear things that are hard things to hear, but like, where do I go wrong? What would you like me to do more of? What would you like me to do less of? Now, you both should have this conversation, and you both need to be open to hearing criticism. Constructive criticism, but criticism. Because none of us are doing it perfect. I assure you, there are plenty of people who tell me that I should shut up more. I'm aware. But the only one who matters is John Brownstone.
Sure.
And if he wants me to shut up more, he knows not to say it that way. And we will have a very nice conversation over coffee.
Correct.
And we'll work on it.
Yep.
But negotiating how you're going to communicate with each other, how you're going to improve those skills together or on your own, it's no different than anything else that you might do in a relationship. Mm-hmm. It's about the back and forth, the give and take, this is what I'd like more of, this is what I'd like less of, this is what helps me, this is what doesn't help me. And both sides of that need to come together to find what works for you. Mm-hmm. And then it gets trickier as you either have different partners, like in general, or maybe you're, non-monogamous and you have, that's going to shift and change from partner to partner, because what one partner needs, another partner maybe doesn't. They need something different. So, yeah, it's a huge topic.
I just had a thought because of something that Silent Wing mentioned in the comments about what if both people are not good at communicating. And I had a thought, throw this out there. You had a book at one time about communication, and you read it, and then you passed it on to me.
Yes, I think we have a review on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
I definitely have a review on the Loving BDSM website.
Right. And I think that would be a very good book to link in this episode.
Yes.
Tongue-Tied?
Yes, Tongue-Tied.
Yes.
By, oh my God, I usually have her name memorized.
Mm-hmm.
It's called Tongue-Tied, though.
Yeah.
We have a copy. I want to read it again. It's not, it is specific to sex and kink in general. I think there's an entire chapter on communicating your kinks, but it's about, part of the book is about looking at yourself and figuring out what you need and what you're trying to communicate and where you struggle. And then other parts of the book are about how to bring that to your partner and talk to partners about what you need. Yeah. And if you're both struggling to communicate, and that's a skill you both need to develop, it is a skill everybody needs to develop. I assure you, most relationships are in that position where both of you are struggling. Both of you read the book, or is it on audio? I know it's ebook and print. I don't know if it's an audiobook. But if both of you read it and then come together.
Right. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, because it has been a little bit since I've read the book too, that each chapter has exercises.
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah, it's been a while since I read it. It's been easily over a year. Yeah. So that is a really, really good resource. I have recommended that a lot. Yeah. I love that book. Yeah. I love that book. Yeah. There were practical things in there that I took away from it.
Oh yeah.
So and I, like I said, we're not perfect, but I feel like I have a handle. I can at least spot an issue, even if I don't always know how to fix it, or if I don't catch myself in the middle of it.
Well, when
I can spot the issue later.
When I was reading that book, there were parts of the book was like, oh yeah, I that's right. Yeah, and then there were some parts that made me, oh, I never considered that. I never thought of that. That's a pretty good idea. That's something to try.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And thank you to the live stream chat. Yes, Stella Harris is the author of the book.
Okay.
Such a good book.
Yeah.
Such a good book.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we could keep talking.
Yes.
We have been known to keep talking.
Yes.
My head started hurting, so maybe that means we should stop and we'll do a bonus section.
Yes.
This is this is a big topic.
Yeah.
And it might lead to a lot more questions beyond any potential tips or things to try or things to consider or things to think about and all that. So one, always feel free to ask. If nothing else, it might lead to another podcast / live stream topic. We have talked about a lot of these things in a lot of different ways. We just don't usually bundle this all together. We can all always learn from each other.
Yeah.
So if you're watching on YouTube, and there's something that you think is really important for people to remember about communication, please feel free to leave it as a comment, whether it's in the live stream chat or a comment afterwards, so the people coming after can learn. And then if you're listening on the podcast, we are almost anywhere you are on social media. Feel free to @ us, to tag us, to DM us if you prefer to keep it private. We can always learn from each other. And sometimes I'll hear a thing that somebody says, and I'll go, yes! I want to either know more about that. That's brilliant. And so it sparks ideas. So that is how this community keeps, and not just our, like, what we call the world, but
now I have a Guinness commercial in my head. Brilliant.
Oh gosh. That is, you are officially more random today than I am. Yes. But the broader BDSM community, and then like our little kinky corner of the world of folks who enjoy loving BDSM, that's how we all keep learning from each other. And apparently we're buffering.
Yeah.
So why are we buffering?
I don't know.
Why are we buffering? We're on the good internet. Podcast listeners, you're fine. We're not buffering for you.
Yeah.
It's just the poor video.
Mm-hmm.
So, we, yeah, that's the thing. Feel free to share is my whole point. So,
are we good?
I think so. Let's go into a bonus section.
Yeah.
There's so much to talk about.
Yes.
But hopefully the YouTube thing will stop buffering.
Mm-hmm.
Thankfully, podcast listeners are like, this is why I don't go to the YouTube thing, because we don't buffer on the podcast.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
So are we good?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
Keep it kinky, y'all. And we'll see you next week, because we're back. Daddy. Daddy.
Yes, BG.
Can I talk to the crickets, please?
It's been a while. Go ahead. I won't even give you a hard time.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the podcast live stream went buffery. Okay. So, we're moved into our new house.
Yes.
If you joined us for last Friday's YouTube live stream hangout, that is a totally random thing. We don't talk about anything like major or life-changing. We did talk about it, but this is the broader audience, and not everybody joins us there, and so we'll talk about it again. So if this is a repeat for you, maybe this is the time to go get some more coffee. The office is not set up at all. Well, not at all. The corner of where our desks live, set up. The area that's going to be the recording area, not
a hot
set
mess.
up. You at least got the boxes straightened up. The day of the move, Wednesday, May 13th, we were just, this room that we're in is so large, we were just putting boxes on the floor, like all scattered and sort of cattywampus. You did finally at least put them in a straight line.
Yeah.
And my diagnosed OCD brain was very happy about that. I was like,
I figured, yes.
these boxes. So yeah, the house is good. We are on the boxes situation. I would say we're 90% unpacked. Mm-hmm. The only things we have not unpacked, we are literally waiting for the furniture order from IKEA to be delivered. June 1st is the day.
Yep.
And then
we're waiting on bookcases, mostly for the living room and the office here. Mm-hmm. And I was asked, well, why aren't we hanging pictures yet? And I was like, well, we need to wait for the last few pieces of furniture to get here so we know where everything's going to sit before we start hanging anything.
Yeah, which made sense.
Because we do have some, I was looking through the last few boxes in the garage. Mm-hmm. One box was the old Wii.
Oh gosh,
system.
I think we can donate that.
No, then I can't play Guitar Hero.
We're going to keep the Wii? That's like 10 years old?
But I can play Guitar Hero on it.
But you play so many other things.
But I've missed Guitar Hero.
Oh, I didn't know you'd miss Guitar
See?
Hero.
You didn't ask.
Believe me, I assure you, of all the things running around through this head of mine, never once was, I wonder if he wants to play Guitar Hero. That just never occurred to me. Never occurred to me.
Oh, you should have seen my face when I was in the storage unit pulling stuff out, and I found the Guitar Hero guitars.
Oh goodness! And now we actually we paid to have our TV mounted to the wall, which is a really cool look. I understand why so many people do it. I've never had a TV mounted on a wall, like the living room TV or whatever. And it's in a perfect position. The living room is a decent size. I could see you jamming out.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely jamming out in there.
Oh, yeah.
Your Guitar Hero self. The only thing I remember about the last time I watched you play Guitar Hero was the clack, clack, clack of the buttons on the plastic guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, apparently there'll be some more Guitar Hero in your life. Yeah, we actually were unpacked. We did more unpacking over the weekend, but we were truly unpacked by Friday.
Yes.
Best movers ever.
They were incredible.
They showed up to the old house at 9 a.m. They left the new house at noon. 3 hours. And so we got lunch, I think. I went and got drive-through, or we ordered something. And then after we ate lunch, we just started unpacking. And then we spent, that was Wednesday. And then Thursday we spent more time unpacking. I think we had to go to more stores too.
Yeah.
So it was amazing.
It was nice. We talked about mounting the TV. It's actually over the fireplace.
Right. Our fireplace is essentially not usable in its current form.
It's not usable, and it's more of a eye candy kind of thing.
It's beautiful.
Which I'm fine with. And I looked at it, and I looked around a little bit. And I decided that I did not want to try and tackle hanging that puppy myself.
No. That our TV was our Christmas present to ourselves.
Yeah.
It would be sad if it dropped and died.
And I had Kayla do some searching. Found a few people that did the installs. I looked at the websites, made calls, talked with somebody I felt comfortable with. He answered all my questions and concerns. And sure enough, he came out. He did a really nice job. So it's mounted up on the wall, and very, very happy with it. Glad we did it that way.
Yep. So things are coming together.
Yeah.
For anybody who's curious, because I've gotten a few questions, yes, we will do an office tour kind of thing once it's put together. We'll do that as a video on YouTube.
Yeah.
The bedroom is mostly together. Still just waiting on furniture. I'm kind of happy that we're at that point, but I'm also really impatient. I just want my furniture. I'm going to have an actual, I don't think it's actually, I always called them vanities, but basically that tabletop mirror thing with a chair in the bedroom where I can put my makeup on. I'm going to have one of those. If there's another technical term other than vanity, because when I think vanity, I think bathroom vanity, and that's a different thing.
No, a whole different thing.
That's a whole different thing. A bedroom vanity? I don't know. I'm just started thinking about this stuff, so I don't know what any of it's called, but I'm about to get that, and I'm very excited. We're gonna get bookcases so that our books about sex and kink have a place to live. That is very exciting. So thank you, Amy. I need an emoji of the week. Now we'll see who's real dedicated, because if you're still listening at this point, I know what the emoji of the week needs to be.
What?
There's a house emoji. There's a house emoji, so it'll be a house emoji.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't know where it is or what exactly it looks like, but I know I've seen a house emoji, so we'll go with that. Thank you. So,
Now, X, a while back, I did hang the TV for the boys. It was a little 32-inch, and I didn't mind doing that.
Oh, I heard lots of cussing when you did that.
Well, it was a little frustrating. I give it that. But yeah, hanging it here. Thankfully, this guy, he had all the right tools. He drilled into the mortar in between the bricks, so didn't even damage the bricks. He did it all in between the mortar lines,
He did a good job and was
he
fast.
He did a good job
Once
and
he
he
got
was
here.
fast, yeah.
And
So-
now I think we have a handyman. We have in the living room. It's a vaulted ceiling in
Yes.
the living room, and we have a functional ceiling fan. And if you are not, I don't know at what point, as you go further north in North America, at least, ceiling fans stop being an absolute staple. But down here in the South, in Florida, you need one in almost every room, and we have one in nearly every room. We have two in the office, actually. And the living room has a vaulted ceiling, and it has a kind of ugly, dated ceiling fan, but it's functional, so we're not worried about it. But it's really, really high up. Your tallest ladder won't even go up that high. And also, the last time you did a vaulted ceiling fan, I was almost wetting myself. I was terrified. I was like, he's going to fall off the ladder. So when we get that new ceiling fan, we also have somebody who said, yes, I can install this for you, and it will only be blah, blah dollars.
The vaulted ceiling here in the house is actually higher than the vaulted ceiling we had in the condo. So
yeah, for sure, the condo.
Yeah.
No. That was my first experience with a vaulted ceiling, and it was like a baby vaulted ceiling. This I wouldn't want to try and dust up there, is all I'm saying.
I don't have a ladder. That I'd have to buy a ladder, a taller ladder to install the ceiling fan.
Right, which,
yeah.
I mean, if you need a taller ladder, I guess it's fine. Actually, we tried to go buy a step stool and bombed out of that because our local home improvement store was being crappy that day.
Yeah.
It's already stressful enough. We go into stores as infrequently as we can. We wear a mask every time, but we're trying to navigate whatever normal is going to start looking like. And so it's like when we go to a store, we go with a long list so we can go and get out and not have to go again for however many days. And it's like we just want a fucking step stool for the inside of the house that does not have all the dirt and gunk of the step stool that lives in the garage. So, and then got no help. So,
but no, we're moving along. I've got my shop is pretty much set up.
You turned something.
I even turned a bully
Nothing
yesterday.
Kinky, but he did turn wood. So
yeah.
When will you turn kinky things again?
I'm very close to getting down to some of that. I went out to find a commercial grade power strip today, and the store was bare.
I have to look online.
I may have to look online and see. There's 3 power outlets in the shed, but one of them is too far away, and I need to extend a little bit. And I'm not ready to get a electrician out here to do it, so I'm just going to find a commercial grade power strip to stretch a little bit for the time being. But once I do that, then I can get the router table and bandsaw going. But it's all good. I've got all the tools out there. Everything's back up and set up on the stands, and got most of my wood out there. Now, one of the goals I have here real soon is I have a ton of logs.
Y'all, he has so much wood, and not even as a sex joke. He's just got a lot of wood.
Yeah. and one of the things I want to do with those logs at this point, which is something I've not done, is I want to cut them down and process them so that they are...
You want to mill them?
Mill them. Yeah.
See, I know a word.
Yeah. So that they're ready for me at any point. I can just grab it, throw it on the lathe, and turn it. They're not just bare raw logs anymore.
So much wood, y'all. So much wood. Not even being ironic or full of innuendo.
I have an entire corner of the garage that's logs.
And all the shelf space in the workshop is filled with wood.
Yeah.
So much wood.
Yeah.
So you're gonna make a lot of kinky things.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's all I cared about. That's all So people have asked, have we broken in the house with kinky fuckery? Not really. We did have, before we moved in and it was still empty and we were having work done, we did come in and sneak in and have a little spanking session.
Yes, we did.
Which was delightful. Mm-hmm. And we don't have to be so quiet with the bedtime spankings anymore. No. So that's nice.
Yes.
But some of the other fuckery we might do had to be delayed because, you know, when you move even a mile and a half away, you're boxing things up, you're tossing things up.
Things happen.
Things happen and things get misplaced. And, you know, sometimes it's a TV remote. Sometimes it's like a whole box of clothes. That's happened before. This time, however...
I had 2 jars of Butters.
Butters lube, our favorite fucking lube.
Two jars of them in the nightstand. Now, one of them was empty. The other one was half full. And I was like, why am I keeping an empty jar of lube? And I threw away what I thought was the empty jar of Butters. And last weekend, we decided to have some kinky fuckery. And I reached for the lube. Opened it up. It was empty. Threw away the wrong one.
No lube.
Nope.
No lube in this house.
No.
No lube. There are many, many, many things that we can do without lube, but there are many things we cannot.
Right.
This body requires lube at this point.
Yep.
So I placed an emergency order.
Mm-hmm.
Then tweeted at my friend Jerome about the emergency
yes, that
order.
Emergency.
And he didn't like do anything special. He processes orders on Saturday, but Saturday morning when I woke up like 9 o'clock in the morning,
there was a message from him that it shipped.
So we have to go check the P.O. box.
Yeah, I may do that this afternoon.
That would be lovely.
Yes.
Because I ordered other things too.
And Kat asked what I thought about the wood.
Did you see that in the email?
You showed me the picture, and I loved it. I loved it. I thought it was fantastic.
So
loved it.
Yeah. So
and Silent Wing, the bowl that I made the other day, it was a little piece of maple that I had. I actually a wood turning friend of mine was cleaning out his shop. He has. He's still doing wood turning, but he's doing a very specific type of wood turning now. And he was cleaning out a bunch of his old wood that he is not going to use. So he gave me all this stuff. And that piece of maple was in there. It was already cut to round and had center marked, which was how I just threw it up on the lathe and turned it the way I did. And it was just a nice little piece of maple that I turned, and it came out really nice. I was really happy with it.
You haven't turned other than this bowl this week in like literal weeks.
Yeah, and it was just nice to do that and make shavings.
I just want you to make kinky stuff.
Oh yeah.
That's all I care about. I mean, his bowls are beautiful, y'all. They are. You can see them, some of them, at thewooddumb.com. But I care about his kinky stuff. Sorry. So, we are still boring and talking about the move a lot. As the office and recording areas start to come together, we will talk about that a lot, and we will be boring that. What are we going to talk about when... is this when everybody's going to find out that we're just genuinely boring people? This is the moment. Yeah. It's fine. Yeah. It's fine. Spoiler alert. We're generally boring people.
And did I mention my motorcycle is fixed?
That's right. You've been riding your motorcycle.
My motorcycle is fixed. The carburetor has been done. He did end up having to replace a number of the seals on the carburetor anyway. But it is done. And I have been riding. I've gone out a few times at night, hopped on the bike and gone out for a ride, and it was so nice.
I'm glad to see riding again.
Yeah.
Oh, it was so funny, y'all. He's trying to tell me about how he wants to... If y'all remember weeks, maybe even months ago, beginning of the year, I think, he was talking about how he was going to do some of this work himself, and it had become this production, and of course I was supportive. Well, then it sort of stopped, and I'm like, I don't know anything about bikes, but okay. And he takes me out on a walk when we were doing our nightly walks, which we have not done in a long time. This neighborhood is entirely too friendly for me to feel like walking through it. I just need you to know. They want to talk. I don't want to talk to anybody. Anyway, So he takes me out on a nightly walk before the move, and he's like, I've got something I need to tell you. Ironically,
one of those.
He did say, don't worry, it's not about us. It's, it's about...
In regards to the motorcycle.
Right. And I'm like, okay. And I actually still, just proving an anxious is going to anxious, okay? Or anxious, yeah. Whew. I immediately went, oh my God, he's going to tell me he wants to sell the bike. That bothers me. I don't want him to sell the bike. I want him to have a working bike if that's what he wants, but I'm going to be supportive if that's what he wants to do. And he's taking me on this walk to say, I know we're moving. I know we've got some expenses going on, but I really want to put the bike into the shop. And I was like, okay. And he's like, you're not more, like, you don't have questions? You're not concerned? We're in the process of moving. I'm like, I thought you were going to tell me you wanted to sell the thing, and I was trying to figure out how I was going to talk you out of it. Please get it into the shop and make it workable again. And yes, I understand it's an expense, but it's one of the vehicles that we have, so it's fine. Also, back in January, when he'd been riding high on, I can do all the things, he'd be like, okay, I've got to do this work by myself, but then the rest of it has to go into the shop. We'd already had the conversation.
True.
He really was like, okay, I want to let you know that I've been thinking about it, and I think this is what we've got to do. And because I was so hyped up for like the thing I was afraid it was going to be, I was like, oh.
Well,
okay.
I think I was rightfully concerned at that point. We're in the middle of buying a house, planning a move, and all this, and here I am staring at this bike that, I wanted to, be the one to dive into it and work on it, and
Right, reality kicked our butts again.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the whole idea of we could paint the walls if we had to. I was very glad we didn't have to.
Yeah.
So yeah, but see, those communication skills are transferable, y'all.
Yes.
And also, anxious brain is just gonna, I could spin anything to a worst case scenario. So yeah, I have not been on the bike, but that's okay.
No. I'm still, it's, been a while, so I want to get my feet back under me, so to speak.
Yeah, no, I want you to feel confident before we add all of this to the back of it. No. So I think that's plenty, right? Yeah. Also, we have a 14-year-old who's like, you're supposed to get done because you're supposed to do a thing with me. Please hurry up. Please hurry up.
Right.
It's like, we love you too. Fine. So, that's it for us. Friday night hangout.
Yes.
YouTube live stream. If you are a patron or if you become a patron, it's okay. We're not pushing it too hard because we know the times we live in. But that live Q&A is this coming Saturday.
Correct.
And if you never get to make any of these live streams, but especially podcast listeners, hi podcast listeners, we are doing a totally random live stream that will last potentially for literal hours at the end of May. And there will probably be Tipsy Kayla and Tipsy JB.
Woohoo!
Oh yeah. We'll talk more about it as we actually know what we're gonna do, but that is happening. And the emoji of the week is a house, and as somebody pointed out, apparently there's two houses in for emojis. One's a derelict house. No, can we pick the nice one?
Yeah.
We moved. Our rental was not derelict, but in comparison, it was. Yeah. So let's be reminded it's a new house. It's a nicer house. And yeah, that's it. That's us. I think we're back to normal. Oh, if you are a YouTube watcher or if you subscribe to the YouTube channel, we are not doing our weekly short videos until the recording area is put together at the 1st of June. So
no, not at 9 a.m. Silent Winged.
Okay, podcast listeners can't read the live stream chat. Silent Wing wanted to make sure that the Patreon Q&A was not at 9 a.m. And no, it's not. Because the Friday night sometimes goes till midnight. And we're like after lunch kind of thing.
I'm not a young whippersnapper anymore.
You can't even say it.
I know I can't. See?
Okay, we really are going to go.
I'm not decrepit.
No, you're not. So yes, there we go. We really are back because we're all rambly. We love you guys.
Yep.
Thanks for
joining us.
Everything, for listening, for watching, for letting us ramble
and hanging out with us.
Yeah. We love you guys. Bye.